Hello, Dinara.
Hi, James.
So, welcome back, everybody. So, today, once again, we are looking at multiple choice, but with one answer, not multiple answers. As with all of these, I think it's a good idea if you look at the answers first, and then you know what you're going to look out for. So that's my biggest piece of advice. And obviously, you can also go by something called a process of elimination, where you work out, where you cross off the answers that it isn't. So, so if you don't know the answer straight away, you can cross off some of the other answers, and then you've got a smaller choice to look through. Any other? Do you have any other tips, Dinara?
Guys, to pass this exam, the vocabulary is 1,500 words, and most of them academic. So do not hope for your luck. Just work hard in advance. Yeah.
Prepare. Exactly. That's. I think that's good advice as well. So let's get started then. So we've got in paragraph. Yeah, exactly. So let's. So we've got the answers here. So preparation is key. Absolutely. Practice is key. So do similar exercises. Preparation. All of this is key.
And when you feel demotivated, tired, maybe very anxious because of this, think about opportunities you'll have thankfully to knowing English on that academic level.
Absolutely. And so it's a very good exercise to do for that. This one is for a very, very recent text. It is from 1999. It isn't even in this century. So let's carry on. So it's about, I think it's about older workers again. So in the workforce. So I shall start reading. The general assumption is that older workers are paid more in spite of rather than because of their productivity. That might partly explain why, when employers are under pressure to cut costs, they persuade a 55-year-old to take early retirement. Take away seniority-based pay scales, and older workers may become a much more attractive employment proposition. But most employers and many workers are uncomfortable with the idea of reducing someone's pay in later life. Although manual workers on piece rates often earn less as they get older. So retaining the services of older workers may mean employing them in different ways. One innovation was devised by IBM Belgium. Faced with the need to cut staff costs and having decided to concentrate cuts on 55 to 60-year-olds, IBM set up a separate company called Skill Team, which re-employed any of the early retired who wanted to go on working and up to the age of 60. An employee who joined Skill Team at the age of 55 on a 5-year contract would work for 58% of his time over the full period for 88% of his last IBM salary. The company offered services to IBM, thus allowing it to retain access to some of the intellectual capital it would otherwise have lost. The best way to tempt the old to go on working may be to build on such bridge jobs, part-time or temporary employment that creates a more gradual transition from full-time work to retirement. Studies have found that in the United States, nearly half of all men and women who had been in full-time jobs in middle age moved into such bridge jobs at the end of their working lives. In general, it is the best paid and worst paid who carry on working. There seem to be two very different types of bridge job holder: those who continue working because they have to, and those who continue working because they want to, even though they could afford to retire. If the job market grows more flexible, the old may find more jobs that suit them. Often they will be self-employed. Sometimes they may start their own businesses. A study by David Story of Warwick University found that in Britain, 70% of businesses started by people over 55 survived, compared with an overall national average of only 19%. But whatever pattern of employment they choose, in the coming years, the skills of these grey workers will have to be increasingly acknowledged and rewarded.
Such an interesting article.
Yeah, very interesting. So I like the idea of these bridge jobs as well. So I could imagine myself doing that. You know, where instead of you go from full-time employment to retirement, I would rather go full-time, then part-time, then retire.
Yeah, yeah.
So
gradually.
Exactly.
So I have all the words I understand, but some ideas I don't understand. For example, in the beginning they say in spite of, despite of. No, sorry,
Yes.
in spite of, yeah, and so the first sentence, I don't understand.
Okay.
The idea.
So are paid more in spite of rather than because of their productivity. So what it's saying, if you say something in spite of, even though you know it's something negative. So in spite of is like a negative version of because of. So if you say in spite, older workers are paid more in spite of their productivity, that's like saying that older workers are paid more, but they aren't as productive. It's like a reverse because of, basically.
Yeah, but this statement is quite brave and bold, no?
Yes, absolutely. It is. You know, so in spite of means something happened, for example, even though there was some sort of negative factor. So it's like a negative version of because of.
Also, can you please, although and though, they are synonyms, right?
They are very similar, but you could start a sentence with although, or start a clause with, you know, so whereas though, you couldn't do that. You know, so although he's the best in class, you could not say though he's the best in class. So you can start, so you can have a clause with starting with that word, although. That's cool. But they are very similar.
And I found very interesting information that when people are older, they high chance that they are more experienced, and thankfully to that, 70% of their businesses they survive.
Yes.
This is very interesting fact, and obviously logical fact.
Yeah, it makes sense because they probably over the years they've picked up, like, if they've decided to start a business because, you know, they're going to, I think when younger people start businesses, they're more likely to sort of think, oh, okay, this is my dream, this is my passion, I really want to do this. But they might not be very, very experienced in that particular business. Whereas I think on average, older people tend to be a little bit more risk averse. So if they decide to start a business, it's probably because they have good skills for it and they understand the business well. They understand the industry well. That would be my guess. So I'm not surprised by that statistic.
True. For example, in my case, I decided to open school only thankful to my work experience as a teacher. I cannot imagine doing that without experience.
Yes.
Teaching experience. Yeah, even though I was 29 only, but I was, by that age, I had been teaching for 9 years, I think. Yeah, 9 years. And I suppose you teach you've been teaching also for a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've, so this particular time, it's been about 4 years, but I've got 2 other years of teaching experience as well. So, but this particular stretch, it's 4 years. You know, so, you know, so that's why I think things like starting off a business would be you know, so starting off that sort of business, I would be in a much better place to start off a business on that. Compared to, well, I technically have my own business but as a freelancer, but
yes,
as in when you understand the particular industry better, you've got better chances. You know. So I think that's the key, basically, because lots of people start businesses because they decide this is my dream, it's my passion, regardless of if they have the experience or not. And that's something to be careful with.
Yes, and I've noticed that a lot of people, they start also businesses because they just think about earning money.
Yes.
Money hungry.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, is that I don't really understand people whose only motivation is money, because the thing is, you can, so the thing is that there are lots of jobs out there that you can do that pay very good money, but they're soul destroying, and they're incredibly boring, they're monotonous, they're soul destroying, they make you feel horrendous. So, and or you just have no life after you've started it. So it's a bit like, for example, banking or the finance industry. Like, you go into that, they often work 60 hours a week or more. So it's just, yes, you've got lots of money, but all the only benefit that really gives you is not worrying about the bill, because you don't have time to actually live. So what's the point in having the money if you don't have the time? Because I think that's the biggest realization that I've made, is that time is more valuable than money.
True, because you cannot return.
Because you can never get time back. You can always get more money. You can never get more time.
You can even return your health, but not time.
Exactly. You can become healthy again, precisely, but you can't get the time back. Exactly. So, but a very interesting article, though. Absolutely. So,
and I think it's also, even though it was written in 1999, it's quite, let's say,
when I was 12 years old. I think it was similar for you as well. You were about 13, I think.
Yeah, I was 14, I think. Yeah,
so it's a little while ago for Ian. Exactly. But it is yeah, absolutely. It is current. Yeah, definitely. So because actual's an interesting false friend with a few languages, because in German and French, and I think also Spanish,
in Russian,
and Russian as well, it means if you translate it directly into English, it's current. Cool. Actual in English, it's factual or real or genuine. So that's what that word means. So it's always worth remembering the false friends. So we'll have a look at question 1. So in paragraph 1, the writer suggests that companies could consider abolishing pay schemes that are based on age, avoiding pay that is based on piece rates, increasing pay for older workers, or equipping older workers with new skills.
James, I have a question. Abolishing, I don't know.
Abolishing, getting rid of. So, for example, the abolition, so slavery was abolished in many countries in the 19th century. That's an example of abolish. Means scrap or get rid of.
And piece rates.
So I think what those are is, in factories, for example, if you're making, I don't know, cushions, you get paid per cushion instead of paid per hour. It's quite good to get people to be productive, actually, because obviously, they want to make more and more and more. Can encourage them to not do it as well, but it's it does cause them to make a lot.
Okay, and as I feel the answer is A.
Yeah, it is A, exactly. Because, so it's abolishing pay schemes that are based on age, because so what it says is take away seniority-based pay scales, and older workers become a much more attractive employment proposition. So so it just has a different way of saying it. Take away seniority-based pay scales. So seniority is age. So next one, exactly. So it is because that means the same thing as abolishing pay schemes that are based on age. So this take away seniority-based pay scales. So Skill Team is an example of a company which offers older workers increases in salary, allows people to continue working for as long as they want, allows the expertise of older workers to be put to use, or treats older and younger workers equally.
I think, may I guess?
Yeah, of course.
Allows the expertise of all the workers to be put to use.
Yeah, exactly. So if we look at Skill Team, so it says a little bit later, thus allowing it to retain access to some of the intellectual capital it would otherwise have lost.
By the way, interesting fact I would like to tell, in China, so what they did to catch up the world technologies, they hired retired, experienced Japanese engineers.
Ah, okay. Interesting. I can imagine that quite well.
And obviously, imagine, the Japanese, they are so experienced, and they know they have the best technologies, and obviously it's just brilliant idea.
Yeah, no, it is a very good idea, because using the expertise, because even if they don't, so if someone in their 70s doesn't feel that they have the energy or will to work full-time anymore, you can still make great use of that wealth of experience that they have. So it's a really good idea. Although the interesting thing about Japan, though, is when it comes to technology, is there is a sort of idea that people have that it's incredibly high tech. And there are certain things that are very high tech in Japan, but I've also heard that there are other things that really aren't. So, people still use cassette tapes. For example, cassette tapes are still quite popular, and, as in they don't have central heating in the houses. And a lot of the time it's often these sort of kerosene heaters or the paraffin heaters. So, and I think fax machines are still quite popular. So that was the case in Germany. That's the case in Germany as well. So they're becoming less popular. But yeah, fax machines, and I was just shocked. And fax machines? That's very 80s. So fax machines. My mum used to use one before the invention of the email attachment. So, so it's a very, very old school. I remember actually when they said, and the authorities particularly like using faxes and letters, because I think you can prove that it was sent at a particular point, and you can prove the receipt of it. Yeah, it's easier to track. But I remember once when I asked about my transport costs for a year, and the local transport authority, they said, the organisation, they said, oh, we can only send that by letter or fax. I was very, very tempted to answer with a very sarcastic response saying, personally, my preferred communication methods of the last millennium would be
email,
messenger pigeons, so carrier pigeons or smoke signals. But in this case, I'll accept a fax. So exactly. Because no, they said they couldn't send it by email, but I was tempted to say that. Yeah, send it by pigeon, please.
Yeah, but they might not understand humor.
Well, of course,
and
not.
Will feel offended.
Well, of course, because it's as in it's a transport company, it's public, or it's a public company, that they're going to be like that. So yeah, exactly. So we'll continue, I think. So according to, but you were right. So allows the expertise of older workers to be put into use. The next one, according to the writer, bridge jobs tend to attract people in middle salary ranges, are better paid than some full-time jobs, originated in the United States, or appeal to distinct groups of older workers.
This information is erased from my brain. I don't remember. I was distracted, to be honest, when we were reading.
So this one is, there seem to be two very different types of bridge job holder: those who continue working because they have to, and those who continue working because they want to, even though they could afford to retire.
D.
Exactly. D. Appeal to distinct groups of older workers. So it's the poorest and the richest. Next one. David Story's study found that people demand more from their work as they get older. Older people are good at running their own businesses. An increasing number of old people are self-employed. Few young people have their own businesses.
B.
Yes, B. Older people are good at running their own businesses because they've got a much higher success rate in the first year.
Okay, so very interesting article. And guys, I would like to ask you who would like to start their own company and which age would you like to do that? Please write down in the comments below, and we wish you lots of energy to prepare for IELTS exam, and do that in advance, please.
Yeah, exactly. And so everybody, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.